The Managing Director of FITC, and today we're bringing the world's best leaders together to the FITC Sustainability and ESG Conference 3.0. We've run this conference in the last 3 years, bringing industry experts, global leaders, sustainability enthusiasts, advisors, policymakers, regulators, and stakeholders.
Sustainability, and not discuss why it is important and how we can actually implement it. So today has come up, a lot of important action points have come up, regarding each person taking responsibility, not waiting for the government or for the local council to do anything, but for each person to ask themselves, what am I doing to ensure that the business I run or where I work, we're operating with sustainability in mind, because it affects everybody.
Quest Merchant Bank. I'm delighted to be here at the FITC Sustainability ESG Conference. Very topical, very timely, and I am optimistic and hopeful that this conference yields more collaboration towards helping us reach the true potential for Africa when it comes to sustainability. Thank you.
I'm actually here today because I think ESG is really important, sustainability is important. I say that because I sit on a board where I chair enterprise risk management, and ESG is one of those elements that I speak to while I'm chairing that particular committee. And we've been trying to get them to buy into this ESG sustainability initiative. So I've come here to really learn a lot more about what we can do as an organization, about what we can do as a nation, and about what we can do as individuals. Some nuggets to take away that I can use to impact the board that I serve on.
This is actually my first time attending the FITC Sustainability Conference, and it was really, really awesome. The guest speakers, they were awesome. And one thing that stood out to me was what Ms. Tinubu said, where she said trust is a currency on its own and it's built on governance. So thank you.
And I'm live at the FITC Sustainability and ESG Conference 3.0. It's been a totally amazing and rewarding session. We've had sessions from the Titans. We've also had the governance session, and in there we're having right now the environmental session, and we're also going to have the social session as well. I'm really happy that we're now having conversations around ESG because 5 years ago all of these conversations were just budding, but we are beginning to see now a lot of investors, stakeholders, and even managers, and even at the board level, conversations around ESG are developing. And for someone who is a governance professional and someone who also works in the ESG space, I have seen firsthand how companies that prioritize ESG, sustainability, governance have been able to not just manage their affairs but also grow their businesses over the long term. So for me, it's a really good opportunity, and it's a really good conference because
I'm happy to be part of the FITC Sustainability Conference and ESG 3.0. And I'm so happy with the work that FITC is doing in this area, proudly, since I've attended every one of the ESG conference. I was in 1.0, I was in 2.0, and now I'm in 3.0.
And today's conference has been nothing short of enlightening. It was centered on sustainability and ESG. And I would say majorly, one thing that stood out for me was the governance plenary. It was so enlightening. I got to learn so much about governance.
One key takeaway for me from this program is that sustainability has far grown beyond just getting aid, but something that we need to actively make investments into. We need to invest not just in our knowledge, but on how to move from strategy to action. And this also involves carrying people along. It's not just that, okay, you have a select people who are working on this. It's something that affects everyone, and we need to all work together to achieve a sustainable environment, not just for us, but for the future generation.
Would come to you, Timo, from chairing one of the biggest board in about philanthropy, and become about building strategic investments for driving brand trust, stakeholders trust, and sustainable development.
Thank you. The MTN Foundation has been in existence for over 20 years now, and we've moved from being a foundation that does temporary fixes into creating systems that empower communities to continue to thrive in a sustainable manner. So we're very, very intentional as to the kind of projects that we do and the sectors that we play in. We try to align our projects to the SDGs, so we take particular ones, particular SDGs that we focus on, and some of our projects cost across a number of SDGs. So I'll just focus on three areas that we're particular about. So number one is health, right? You know, a healthy nation is a wealthy nation, so we're very particular about health. Most of the PHCs and the public health centers in Nigeria are totally run down. So you go there, there are no facilities, there are no structures, there are no nurses and no medicines. So we took it upon ourselves to refurbish a number of PHCs, and we've done over 200 refurbishments. And it's pleasing when you hear the medical director, thank you very much, the medical director in each of these PHCs saying that through the intervention of MTNF, there has been zero mortality of both the mother and the child and zero stockouts. The vice about substance abuse, and also we've trained about 50,000 students. So when you train someone, they now train other people, and we're actually going down the market to also down the pyramid to the primary school, but because we've also understood that substance abuse is coming. All our projects are actually data driven, so we don't just go into communities with what we want to do. We have a program that we call What Can We Do Together? So communities say what is important to them and how we can intervene. So when we intervene, we partner with the communities, and when we, like, for example, somebody can say, okay, we have shortage of water. Again, waterborne diseases are very, very prevalent in some communities, so we give them borehole, and actually we've done close to 250 boreholes, and over half of them are actually solar. So because we are also very intentional about the environment. So, and when we do these projects, we do them in conjunction with community members, and we hand over, and from time to time we have a very, very strong M&E, monitoring and evaluation team, to see what the impact of our interventions have been. We're also very passionate about economic empowerment. And we believe in inclusiveness and diversity. So we have a Yellowpreneur program that is specifically for women. We train women, and with the enterprise development company to make them become a thriving business that will continue to be in existence. And a lot of them have started becoming employers of labor, and you can see the impact that they have in their communities. We're also into capacity development. We're very, very passionate about STEM. We have, since inception, we have awarded over 20,000 scholarships for science students, and we go into schools. Communities nominate schools, and we a lot of schools, they say they do science, but they don't have laboratories. So we have these laboratory projects that we do. So essentially, in everything we do, we make sure that it is just not transactional, it is sustainable. And how do we get this sustainability? Is by ensuring that we partner with the society, the communities that we are intervening in, and when we leave, we come years later to see how this project has been. And that is how communities can continue to develop and thrive over the long period. Thank you.
Awesome. Amazing. That track is very weak. Absolutely. Thank you very much. It's amazing how all of these sort of investments are traceable to either developing people through health, or building capabilities through businesses, or even creating opportunities that can make communities strong and thrive, especially when you think about the investments in water and cleanliness. And we will bring that discussion. It's Africa we're talking about. We're bringing that discussion to you, Otumba. Otumba Bimbo Ashiru, we have spoken about the enormous things that you do on board, and we would love to know. A lot of the ESG and sustainability framework are global. A lot of them are inherited. How can Africa begin to take opportunity of sustainability and ESG to develop and build stronger boards and stronger institutions across Africa?
Thank you very much for your question, and thank you for having me here today. When we're talking about Africa, we Africans, we must take ownership. We must think of Africa first. Somebody, anytime I was talking to in the waiting room, I said, there's a person in this world that you listen to every day. You say, think America first. It may be crazy, it may be normal, but it's thinking of America. So we Africans, we must think of Africa first. We must collaborate. We must trust ourselves. I mean, a few weeks ago, in a country, they started sending people out of their country, and we're all Africans. So it clearly shows that there's a problem. And who is taking ownership? Who is the leader of Africa today? I remember during the days of OAU, as a young man, I see General Gowon leading Africa. Now we've called it AU, African Union. Who is leading? Who are the leaders? Don't let us deceive ourselves. We don't have leaders in Africa anymore. If we have leaders in Africa, we're not going to have the problem we're having now. That some people have built their businesses, they've done very well, and overnight, some people came in and said, oh, and now there's no way they can survive because those foreigners are the ones actually hurting their country. I haven't said that, and I'll give you a good example. I like to use practicals when I'm talking about things so that I don't want us to turn this to United Nations where you talk, come next year. Because if UN is working, there won't be war all over the world. So I'm trying to let you understand that. Now, I happen to work in Stanbic IBTC, Standard IBTC, and Standard Bank of Africa. They brought in people when we marched 2007 July. They came with about over 100 people as staff. I was the director of branch network reporting to someone in South Africa. And the first thing I told the fellow, I said, look, you must think about the culture. Our culture is different from your own culture. That you have to get it right. You must listen to us first. And they had 51%. Today, they have 70%, but Stanbic is being run by Nigerians. All major people, the MD of Stanbic is a Nigerian. Even in South Africa, Nigerians are the ones running their businesses. Prof mentioned Stanbic. I mean, they are the ones running their businesses. I was in South Africa every other month. They took us to their training school. But they found out that Nigerians are actually very intelligent, very smart, There's nowhere you go to. So the point is this: when we Africans believe in ourselves and we say, well, this is Africa, we must fight it together. President Clinton came to this country some years ago. He said, Nigerians, you have no business going all over the world. Your resources are here. And he was tapping the floor. He knew what he was talking about. You think all those foreign countries coming over here, because we know that we are endowed with a lot of mineral and natural resources. You look at, Prof was talking about mining, 30% of mining all over the world. They are in Africa. So the point is that how do we Africans come together as one pole and trust ourselves? Because see, the moment we don't trust ourselves, there's no way we can do business together. The reason why Standard Bank Group brought in over 100 people to come in, because they don't trust us. But today, with their 70%, Nigerians are the one running their businesses. So and there are so many other businesses like that. MTN came into this country some years back. It was a moribund business in South Africa. But today, MTN, they are repatriating a lot of funds to South Africa. So the point is that we are in Nigeria is a country that we are endowed. We don't know our value as Nigerians. I can tell you that. If you go to anywhere in the world, Nigerians are the ones there. But the problem is that, something happened to someone from years back. He was flown out of this country by air ambulance to London. Meanwhile, the doctor who was going to see in London was in Nigeria treating people. So he waited. He spent over £75,000. Maybe if he had done it in Nigeria, he would have spent probably 20 million. So the point is that Africans, the way we can do this, and we talk about efficiency, collaboration. When you have all these businesses coming to Nigeria, if the cost to company becomes high, because they are bringing their expatriates. They live in Ikoyi, they stay, but when you have Nigerians running those businesses with trust, Nigeria, the businesses we go for and things will sort it out. So the problem is that we must identify a leader in Africa. If you don't have any leader, we are wasting our time. When you're talking about board functions, boardroom things, I just smile. Because some people, they just take over board functions, they become directors. They don't even know what is happening in that company. They don't know how it's run. Then when there's a problem, the EFCC come and they now ask them to. I've been invited by EFCC to a board that I was chairman. I was a director, I wasn't even the chairman. And luckily for me, there was a statement I made, diligent, and they are highly focused. So the point is that for Africa to move forward, we must trust ourselves first. We must collaborate. And we must look at areas where we have competitive and comparative advantage over others. We must stop competing among ourselves. We are competing among ourselves in Africa. The competition is too much, it's so volatile and dangerous. So we must look at how we can move forward towards that. And I have so many foreigners in Nigeria, so many Africans who are not Nigerians in Nigeria, and they are doing well, they are collaborating very well. And one thing I want to say before I drop is that Nigeria is a friendly country. We accommodate so many people. There are so many people. When we have all this xenophobia in South Africa, Nigerians didn't do anything. They didn't kill all the South African businesses. And I think we should continue like that. I commend Nigerians for doing that. Thank you very much.
For us, that creating shared value cuts across three critical pillars that are important to us as a business. One is individuals and family, knowing that Nestle is about good food, good life. So that's the number one pillar. The second, of course, is building thriving communities. And then the third is protecting the planet. And, I think we can see how all that connects. And those are the strategies for us. So for us, it's not just about a project. It's not about an annual plan to do something. It's a continuum. And it starts all the way from procurement right down to distribution. And that's how the creating shared value drives our business. I'll give one example because we're in an environment where over 70% of our people are dependent on agriculture. Industries are also dependent on agriculture as the source of the raw materials. And so when we support farmers and we support them to work together with us along good farming practices, we're not only helping them to increase their revenue, we're not only helping to build thriving communities, but we're helping to ensure we're also ensuring that our business is able to get the raw material that we require, the agricultural raw material that is really critical to our business. So I think that is tied together. And where are we really succeeding in this? We're succeeding in that, right now, over the past 10 years that I've been at Nestle, I've seen us reduce the rejection of grains at the factory gate from over 13% to less than 4% today, and that is progressive. And I've also seen the farmers within our ecosystem. They tell us how their finances have grown exponentially from, producing maybe 2 kg of grains on 1 hectare. They have expanded that to more, to 10, to 20 in some, by applying the good farming practices. So I think that for us, it's not just about a system or a project. It's really about the way that we do business is embedded in it, because we know that if we must grow our businesses, if our businesses must be sustainable, then the environment around us must be growing as well and prospering as well. Because it doesn't matter how good your services are or how good your products are. If the people around you are not growing and able to afford it, then it won't really lead to prosperity or to growth. So for us at Nestle, that's why and that's how. Thank you.
Awesome, amazing. Thank you very much. Start with the strategy, ensure you've got the people in mind, and make it authentic delivery. We'd come to the freshly minted Dr. Ndidi Woneli. Please put your hands together for that. A resounding clap, well deserved, holding down all of these businesses, corporations, family, and an international doctorate. Congratulations once again. Would like to speak to Ndidi on a matter that is important. You have transversed business, consulting, social development, philanthropy, name it, you've checked all of the boxes. And so the question would like to ask is, how, therefore, can Africa accelerate continental growth? How can Africa leverage sustainable development to leapfrog and grow and build the sort of sophistication that people experience all over the world?
Thank you so much, and it's an honor and privilege to be here with such amazing titans, big brothers and sisters and aunties, and I want to also commend the distinguished audience. In many parts of the world, and I like practical examples, you have subsidies for the Dutch farmers who actually are behind some of the large companies we have in Nigeria. We're importing dried milk, right? Nigeria has the fourth largest cattle herd in Africa. We could be producing enough dairy. So we see our multinationals telling us this is the standard for dairy production. However, they're subsidizing their farmers, right? And we cannot compete. Now, WTO rules are also against us. So when, with our Aldine project, Advancing Local Dairy Development, Harvard Business School decided to write a case study on this project, it ends with that. The first letter Dr. Okonjo-Iweala received was from Friesland Campina saying they're unfair trading rules for Nigeria. Why do I say that? You can't come and talk about ESG and talk about double standards. And if African leaders are not speaking with one voice about what is required of the continent, we're not there, right? So that's one. We need to ensure we have a level playing field. We need to speak at one voice, and we need to ensure that there are no double standards. We need to ensure that ESG is being implemented at our pace, and where the rest of the world requires us to move faster, they need to subsidize it. And this is critical. The second key piece is the confidence to also ensure that our SMEs are pulled along. And they are multinationals, and I would use Nigerian breweries as an example because I served on that board. Nestle is also trying. I used to serve on the Nestle board, where you actually are subsidizing the SMEs across the value chain. Because if you want to ensure that they can also maximize their water efficiency, reduce their carbon footprint, ensure that they manage waste, who is paying for that? If the government is not stepping in, who is paying? And I think that subsidy across the value chain is a critical step, both for your distributors and your suppliers. And then finally, the elephant in the room. For someone who just came back a few days ago, we need to pool resources as African businesses to address some of the infrastructure challenges and that sustainability. The flooding in Lagos is an eyesore. Has anybody talked about it today? The businesses are all suffering. The staff who are coming to our offices are suffering, and it's an ESG issue. Now, who is going to take it on? My earliest career as a consultant at McKinsey, I got to work in South Africa with McKinsey working on business against crime. Businesses came together, the hundreds of businesses, to say the crime rate is too high, we must do something about it. And they adopted 100 police stations across the country, and we worked with them to reduce crime. Who is going to take the leadership in Lagos to address the flooding issue and the crime issue? Are businesses going to put their money where their mouth is? Are the philanthropists going to come out and put their money where their mouth is? At Wealth for Impact, we're putting together philanthropists in Nigeria to work together on the wicked problems confronting our society. But for this, we need courage, we need wisdom, and we need to put our resources to work. This is our country, this is our continent, no one else is going to solve these problems. So a wake-up call is action, and the companies that are doing good work, we have to elevate those stories to change narratives. So that's the first key. The second is we have to unlock resources available to us in Africa. As you mentioned, pension funds. But through our work, we also realize that there's $3 trillion worth of legitimate African money outside Africa. Our people have to trust that they can keep their money here in our currencies, because we're going to create stable macroeconomic environments to ensure investment. And through Wealth for Impact, we'll partner with banks like Stanbic to create instruments to make sure that philanthropists can also keep their money here. And then finally, we need to ensure that we remove all the barriers that continue to ensure that we hide our resources. Because that's the challenge with our continent. We see this. If you go to many, what we call safe zones, we are seeing that happening. And I was so excited, I was recently in Kigali, that the Rwandan government has said, don't put your money in any other part of the world. We will be the Luxembourg of Africa. Can Lagos or Abuja say the same thing? Can we create safe havens for funds to be domiciled in our countries and remove the bottlenecks that prevent people, but also allow free movement? And I think all of those conditions will not only attract more investment, but also ensure that we multiply the resources available to us. Thank you.
Like Prof said, the government is in existence for 4 years. Then another set of regulators come, another set of leadership come, and regulators change. So you that have invested, you don't know what is going to happen. Today your money is devalued. The $1 million that you think you have has now become about 100,000. So you won't have people coming in. So investors' confidence is all about trust. And how do we build trust? We have to ensure that our systems work and are seen to be working. We don't need anybody to get things to work for you. Corruption has to be brought down. There's this story of this man that came from the state that wanted to do a medical city in Abuja. He did a presentation. The Minister of Health was very, very satisfied. This was a couple of regimes ago. Minister was very impressed and said, this is fantastic. Okay, said, have you seen the president? And the gentleman said, why do I need to see the president? It's all about corruption because everybody wants to take a little bit from the project. He took the project to Ghana. Ghana has that medical city. My own cousin, that is where she did her cancer treatment. So we keep losing investors because they can't trust us and because a lot of corruption, our systems don't work. So we need to fix all this before. The returns are good, right? So people who want to take the risk will come. And that is why there's a huge premium on things that are coming in because they're factoring in the lack of systems, the lack of the corruption and things like that. So once we fix our system, all these trillions that are outside Nigeria or outside Africa will become residents in Africa. And once people can be confident that when they invest, they are allowed to take their money back, they are not ashamed of being rich. They understand a lot of people keep their money outside because they don't want people to realize that they're cheap and they're not penalized
by level of dollar they earn, but rather let's look at the number of people that were brought into productivity and exchange that's empowering people to do things sustainably. That is the African model.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And we wrap it up for us, Dr. Ndidi. In another, people are going to be leaving this room, but they must leave with their final notes. What actions do you think people should take home, apply, that in 12 months they have seen results?
I would say that all of us sitting in this room have a sphere of influence. Your home, your business, your community, and your commitment to leaving a legacy, and how we partner with others to ensure that our homes and our businesses and our communities reflect excellence. Because there is no way that we can be rich and successful alone when our society is on fire. That is actually failure. And so my conviction and my charge to you is leave a legacy of impact by the way you invest in those around you, by the way you model behavior, and by the way you use your voice in every platform where you sit. There's a quote, and I'll end with this quote. It's an African youth talking to a president. He said, "I'm no longer asking God to grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I'm asking the Almighty to grant me the wisdom and courage to change the things I cannot accept." I personally cannot accept that this city that's called the Center of Excellence reflects me and reflects the people in this room. I can't accept that. I can't accept that this country is listed as one of the worst places to be born. I cannot accept that as Nigerians we can hold our hands and say, well, I'm successful, but my neighbor is on fire. We must rise up and have the courage and wisdom to change the things we cannot accept. That is our challenge.
Awesome. Thank you so much. In wrapping up, we've had a wonderful 15-minute celebration around leadership, the importance of leadership, why leadership must inspire, why leadership must be effective, why leadership must consistently do it.
Okay.
Sustainability, experts and all. So I couldn't just miss it, and I have to be here. But at the same time, it's also because sustainability for me is life. And indeed, when you say sustainability, you are talking about living from every aspect. And so it's important that if we want to live, we actually must be part of the living. And that's one other major reason why I am here this morning to give this goodwill message. The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Fitc, my dear sister, Dr. Chizo Elise, members of the Fitc Sustainability and ESG Institute Advisory Board here present, distinguished sustainability top leaders, corporate executives, and governance experts, esteemed regulators, policymakers, and development finance professionals, investors, ecosystem enablers, and all stakeholders committed to Africa's sustainability future. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm addressing you here not as a stranger, but as part of the growing team of people who actually value sustainability and know exactly what it means and actually desire to have it embedded in our systems. This journey had long come from far and even from origin. Being a child from the Niger Delta and having grown up in Lagos, particularly at Jigule, and of course moving around the areas of Tolu, for those people that know, Amukoko, and indeed Maroko, which nobody ever remembers again. And it speaks clearly to the issues of sustainability. Of course, nature is very, very kind, but oftentimes very comical. That we're speaking about sustainability now, and the rains are all here. And we can see exactly why this is a very important part of our living. It is my distinct honor to stand before you today at the 2026 Fitc Sustainability and ESG Conference 3.0, convened under the timely and ambitious theme, Building a Sustainable Africa, Integrating Environmental Stewardship, Social Impact, and Strong Governance for a Prosperous Future. I commend the Fitc for its unwavering commitment to advancing sustainability, responsible business practices, and long-term value creation across Africa. this conference represents more than a gathering. It is a call to deliberate action, a platform for practical solutions, and a testament to our collective resolve to shape a resilient, inclusive, and prosperous continent.
But every major contract somehow was routed to another company that he owned. There was no real related party register because in his own mind, there were no related parties. It was just all him. And the business was incredibly successful. But the governance was literally one heartbeat away from the cliff. And our job wasn't to clip his wings, it was to build those guardrails that would let the company outlive its founder. And that's the reality across our continent. We have all these related party dealings that need real scrutiny. We have a governance talent pool that's still too thin. So the same trusted names are the ones ending up sitting on too many boards. And so our job isn't just to simply import governance wholesale from anywhere else in the world, is to take the best of what works and adapt it to our own reality. So what does any of this look like in practice? I'll give you 3 quick commitments that we can all make. So first, let's make accountability specific. So having clear mandates, so everyone knows who owns what. Independent audit and risk committees that have the authority to act and real consequences, including the top. Because accountability that stops short of senior leadership really is not accountability at all. Secondly, let's make transparency a habit, not a performance. Anyone can be open when you have a great quota. And the real test is not what you do when the news is bad. Do you say it's early? Do you sit on it? Do you hope? And here's what I've seen. The market will forgive a company that owns up to a small problem, but it never quite trusts that one that gets caught hiding it. So tell on yourself first, report yourself. And then third, let's make ethics something that we can actually use. A code of conduct that is sitting in a drawer just changes nothing. It might as well not exist. But a code that people are trained on regularly, that gets tested when it's inconvenient, when where doing the right things will get you noticed, and if you do cut the corners, you will get fired. That is what will actually change things. And here's why this really pays off. Capital follows governance. I've sat on the institution side of the table, and the money comes in at a sensible price. Get it wrong, and either it will never come, or it comes so expensively that it's not worth having. So let me close where I started, which is that the scarcest asset in Africa is trust, and governance is how we built it. And let me leave you each with something. So to the boards in the room, please stop treating governance and sustainability as 2 separate conversations. Put them on the same page in the same meeting. And to the executives, think of integrity not as the thing that slows you down, but as the things that set you apart. To the regulators, keep pushing us, raise the bar, and make sure that it has teeth. And to the investors and partners here with us, reward the ones who get it right and help to build the ones who are trying. Now, none of us builds a trusted institution alone, and none of us builds a prosperous Africa alone. But if we get the governance right, patiently, honestly, together, the growth and the shared prosperity will follow.
When they appoint board members, you make sure that the people you are appointing are people who are in alignment with your core values. And when you talk of core values, like people generally mention integrity, for instance, or character, you see that it's at the center of everything. They say it's like whether someone is there or not, you can be sure the boundaries that person cannot cross, no matter what. That's what character is all about. So if you have such people, you can be sure about the quality of things they will deliver. And I've experienced it in concrete terms. I've been on a board that you saw one of the executives on the board, the director, crossing, the boundaries in terms of his conduct, his behavior, and so on. And the board did not hesitate to ask him to resign, to step aside, because reputation is very key. If you do not, reputational management, if you do not do that, then you see that. So this is very, very critical in organizations. And so it's very crucial that we pay attention to those in the course of governance.
Thank you very much, Dr. Judema. I think what I take from what you've said, one key takeaway for me is talent. And so one of the things that we have to do is to look at the way that we bring people onto boards. Are we truly bringing people onto boards through very an auditable process that has integrity, or are we still wink wink, you look like you can be a part of the club, and I need to do diversity, so I know a woman that I think is malleable and I want to bring her on. So I think talent, very, very critical, as Dr. Judema has said. I think there are a lot of companies that believe that they're doing governance well. And so I will now go to Ms. Onwudiegu. Because institutional investors will often say governance is a precondition for capital. I also know of many companies that genuinely have strong boards, have long-term active. What's the missing link between actually getting your governance right, having accountability, having the talent, having the values, as Dr. Judema and the lead speaker have told us, and actually getting that result where you are attractive as an investment destination? What's that? How do you feel that gap?
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. I think the thing about the question is also just the realization that governance can be a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition to actually attract it. That can help to verify, do the assurance process, audit your governance, because then it can indicate to investors that this is not just something that I'm saying, and this is not just something that is a chart. This is something that has been verified and has been looked through, right? So how are you create the issue about creating verifiable and third-party assured instances are very, very critical. I think another thing is, how are you thinking about comparability, right? Because especially if you look within our climate, within Africa, some of the issues which is not great is perception, right? And so you have different governance frameworks globally, like the MCSI governance framework. But unfortunately, you don't have a lot of African companies that are covered by those kind of frameworks, right? Even publicly listed companies. And so the same way you have like the Fitc ratings, the Moody ratings, you don't have us participating in that. So there is no way they can say how you compare to other companies. And I think the third problem that can arise where you're saying, oh, you have a strong governance, but you're not able to attract capital, is also the context, the country, the sovereign risk. No matter what you do, you still can't ignore the fact that you are operating within a context, right? And so if you have a situation where there are policy unpredictability, I think it was mentioned in the first panel, and we see this a lot. So just last year, this year, a lot of the cassava derivative manufacturers, a lot of the grain producers, they had issues and they had a glut, given that policies changed, right? And so the investments they had made radically changed just because a lot of those policies changed. This leads to like what the African government, what we can do as government to actually address this. First, of course, is policy predictability. There has to be policy predictability. And this is also like, how are they creating incentives for easy entry and exit of capital? I think another thing linked to one of the first points I made on verification is how you're creating that independent assurance system. The same thing has been done in the financial audit space. How are you doing the same thing in governance space? And the final thing, and I like what she said about, ensuring that rules have teeth. I think another issue is the difference between rules and enforcement, right? A lot of times we actually have really good rules in Nigeria. I think, a lot of the things we have on paper actually, well, not a lot of things, but quite a lot of things we have on paper are, really solid, but enforcement is a big issue. And so if investors know that there is a rule, and yes, you go by the rule, but it's very possible if an issue arises tomorrow, it's not going to be enforced, then I have no fallback, and then I need to price that premium into what I'm doing. So there needs to be a tiny gap or no gap between rules and enforcement so that investors feel confident in the system and are able to invest.
I almost feel, Ms. Ogiegu, that you're basically saying that a company has to do an inside out, what's within my control, and get it completely right on what is within its control, the talent, the policies, the verifiability of its claims and all of that. And then is it within the government's control, which all of us should work the government to get. And then there's that part about the internationals, things like the indices that rate you and the comparability. And you have some access, some ability to moderate that. You have some impact on it, but not complete impact. And I guess this is what, as you were speaking, what came to me was the importance of us not giving up on the country and working together to ensure that things are right. Because if you're here and you're doing business here, what affects the country affects you. Thank you very much for that brilliant perspective. I'm going to go back to Mrs. Tinubu before I go to the only gentleman on our panel. Mrs. Tinubu, because you're a lawyer, I want to delve into a bit what you're seeing from your practice, which you have so graciously shared a bit with us. Are you seeing ESG and governance due diligence results leading to changes in the terms, the pricing or structure of transactions and financing in African markets? Or is it still largely a documentation exercise? And how would you advise companies to prepare for the trends that you're seeing, especially given what Ms. Omodigwu had spoken about with respect to the parts that I called what is not entirely within your control as a company? Thank you.
Thanks. So my honest answer to the first question is that we're still seeing both, but the balance has shifted quite decisively. So 5 years ago, ESG, the transaction, too often was just a schedule at the back of, at the back of a report that everyone signed, and no one priced. And today, in the deals that we're seeing, it's moving the substance. Now, let me break it down. On the financing side, we now routinely see sustainability-linked loans, where the margin, that's the actual interest rate that the borrower pays, moves up or down, depending on whether the company hits its agreed sustainability targets. Now, when you read that plainly, it means that the cost of your money is now tied to your sustainability conduct. Now, that's not just a documentation exercise, that is price. Now, on the deal side, ESG due diligence has become a condition precedent. So it's not just a simple courtesy. And these due diligence findings, they translate into specific outcomes. The gap in Africa today is between the deals that touch international capital, where ESG is fairly priced, and the deals that do not touch international capital. You identify the ESG gaps that you have, and then you act on them through a time-bound action plan with clear ownership and board oversight. It has to be time-bound. It has to be an action plan, not just a channel of hopes and dreams. People have to own their specific obligations under it, and you have to have that board oversight. And then thirdly, you have to establish your data and reporting framework. It has to be credible. And you have to put in the systems, the controls, the assurances in order for you to measure and verify your ESG performance. And then lastly, we have to remember that we must position governance as our competitive advantage. Where an organization has invested in strong governance, it should be recognized.
The executives, many of them pretend that they're driving ESG and sustainability. So what I would recommend is to institute an independent, verifiable ESG and sustainability performance metrics that will be linked to executive compensation. So let them see that these are the metrics. If we meet these metrics, this is how much we're going to earn in addition to the basic salary. I can assure you, if we do this, they will all be interested, they will drive ESG and sustainability. And what else will it bring? Growth. It will also open up the opportunities to attract capital, because the ESG pillars of environmental, social and governance will be well implemented. That's where the problem lies. Sometimes the ESG factors of E, S, and G, people pay attention to E and pay attention to G, they ignore the S, and that's where the central problem is. So if we institute this framework and get executives to run them, and that they get it right with the performance metrics, they will get good compensation and other incentives will get it right.
Dr. Agoke, as you were speaking, I remembered when Ezinwane Noruka was giving the address on behalf of Dr. Olowo this morning, and she was saying that Africa doesn't have to do its own sustainability the way everybody does it. And you touched on something that's very dear to me, which is this E is important, but the S is extremely important in our environment as well. And it's also achievable, like we can touch it. You don't need loads of understanding of what greenhouse gases are and all of that. I'm not saying, and I want to make clear that those things are not important, but I totally agree with you on that S part. And I think to the point you're making about executive compensation in IFRS S2, there's actually a requirement around disclosing climate targets and the links to executive compensation. So you are going harder than IFRS S2. You're saying not just climate change, but okay, executives take notes. I guess the executives who have Dr. Agoke on their board or as a board advisor, you already know the way that he's thinking. So I'll go back to where we started, and that's with Mrs. Tinubu, to ask her, what is that one thing? And Mrs. Nvidu, you've given us, as has everybody else on the panel, real pearls of wisdom today. But what's that one thing you want to leave with us, that if you were in a room and you could force a policy advisor, a policy maker, a board member, a CEO, somebody with decision-making authority to do, what would it be that will move the governance and sustainability needle, and why?
For me, one change, and my suggestion is very closely aligned to Dr. Chidema's, I'm sorry for butchering your name, plea for directors to stand their ground. And it would be to put truly independent voices in every boardroom. And they actually listen to that voice. So we're not talking about putting in front of the chairman of the board or any familiar name. We need directors with independence to ask those very awkward questions. But also, we also need the security for those directors to keep asking those questions when it's unwelcome. Because every failure that I've seen, it didn't happen for a lack of rules. The rules are there. But it happened because no one in the room felt free to say, hold on a minute, wait, are we sure? Now, if you change that, you will change everything downstream. So you'll have better decisions, you'll have honest disclosure, you'll have real accountability. Because trust isn't built by adding another policy. It's built the moment a director's ability to be that dissenting voice becomes safe. That's the change I would advocate for.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Tinubu. So my panel has just been fantastic. There's so many nuggets. Even if I say so myself, I'm doing my own evaluation of the panel myself. Loads of nuggets and takeaways. I just want to remind you of some of them. We really need to put independent voices in the room. in boardrooms. And I think there's a whole nother panel somewhere in the future. And really what sustainability is about when you go back to the Brundtland report, you're holding it for generations to come, but not just anyhow, with value, with shared benefit. And then we need to be able to independently verify all of these things. And there have been loads of conversation on the panel as to why that independent verification is necessary. We say we need capital in Africa. There are things that, as I said before, the ones within your control, the ones outside your control, but within the control of your government, and then the ones that are kind of a bit overlaying of both of them. And so let's get what is within our control correct, so that at least on that, when the providers of capital are looking at us, they do not find us wanting, and it's not just what we say, but that it's verifiable. I wanted to bring this panel in before by 55 minutes, and I see that we've been successful in doing that. Congratulations to my panel members. Thank you very much for listening to us. Have a good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Tinubu, please smile. They're all pointing to you right now. You can look at the camera. Thank you for joining us virtually.
Okay.
Thank you for your insight.
Can we do one without that? Can we do one without that?
Thank you for being present with us. To all our participants online, we celebrate you. We appreciate you for staying through.
The theme of today's conference, Building a Sustainable Africa, Integrating Environmental Stewardship, Social Impact, and Strong Governance for a Prosperous Future, reminds each one of us that sustainability is no longer a parallel conversation. It is increasingly influencing investment decisions, as we just heard, business resilience, capital allocation, governance expectations, and of course, long-term competitiveness. For financial institutions, this presents both a responsibility and an opportunity. Our role extends way beyond providing capital. We help mobilize investment, we structure transactions, we support enterprise, we advise clients through periods of change. Increasingly, we also have a responsibility to ensure that the capital we deploy contributes to resilient businesses, stronger institutions, and sustainable economic growth.
All of these are the problems that we face. So the world is changing, and environmental risk is equal to financial risk. When we listened to the last panel, they talked about the fact that if you don't govern properly and you don't think about sustainability in your governance, you may not be able to either get or have access to affordable finance. So it is a financial risk in so many ways, and we'll get to that. Climate risk is also boardroom risk, so the board members need to be up to date on what is happening, and of course that flows into economic capital. So there are these 5 trends I believe reshaping. There are probably more, but these are the 5 key trends I see shaping the business ecosystem. Carbon pricing and border adjustments and mandatory climate disclosures are tightening across major trading blocks. So you may think, oh, Africa, we can trade amongst ourselves, but we are part of a larger trading ecosystem. We're part of value chains across the world. So social media has helped everybody. If you do what we don't like, you put on social media, everybody gets to see it very quickly. So these are things that are putting pressure on businesses. So we have this paradox, right, that Africa contributes less than 4% of global greenhouse gas emission, yet we bear some of the most severe climate impact. It's almost like it's not fair. that we contribute so little to it, and those who are contributing so much to it, somehow either maybe they have the right infrastructure or they have the right systems, they're not suffering as much as we are suffering back home here. And so this paradox is perhaps the greatest problem, but it also presents an opportunity. So you have here 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land. That's assets. That's assets that we can intentionally use. Abundant renewable energy, critical mineral, youngest population, cost of their savings there, energy efficiency, waste reduction. I think Nancy told us that they don't have any waste anymore, so even their waste they can monetize. So that's something good to happen when you think sustainability. You're also able to optimize cost savings across your entire operation. But also better access to finance, ESG-aligned businesses attract preferential green financing, blended capital, and low-cost international investment. So before deploying capital, investors are beginning to ask questions about how you're thinking about sustainability. Are you resilient? Will you be here for the next 10 years? Do you understand the transition and all of those things? And I mean, the last panel talked about a lot about trust. So if you have, that's a key business case for sustainability, that it helps brand reputation. So stakeholders can trust you, stakeholders across the patch, be it your employers, be it the regulators, the community where you operate, stakeholders can trust you. And if stakeholders trust you, it's less headache, I can assure you.
A lot of them work all over the world. Globally, they are represented. Some of them are not in this room because of their assignment, but almost all of them are virtual, are watching, and some have had part of the first segment and gone to other board commitments. Permit me to present to you the chairman of the conference planning committee is Ayotola Jambo. Please put your hands together for her. We also have Titi as part of that, doing that magic, and we also have James doing that magic. FITC team, can you please join me to say this thank you to them? Thank you, and thank you. We'd like to present this to you and to say thank you for all the good work that you've done. We'd also love to present this to you, Titi, for all the good work that you've done. Thank you very much. Somebody said men don't like flowers. I said that's not true. So I have to start with this first, and I still have to have the flowers. Can I have the flowers? It brightens your room, it brightens your heart. I do not believe men do not flowers. It just want this important that you recognize all of the work that you have done putting this together. Nobody can imagine the tireless hours, the sacrifices, the brainstorming, the sessions, the meetings, and more importantly, the outcome is phenomenal. And we say thank you, and thank you.
Before we go, I would also, you know, when Dr. Malise contacted me to say, would I chair, I took a little while to get back to her. Because I was like, with all the workload I had. And she said, you know what, you'll be fine. I will do the bulk of the work. And indeed they did. She did. So I would like to say a big thank you. The success of this conference is really down to you. And, you know, apart from just calling to chase up on, you know, to discuss with me, you know, the things around the conference, she will call me regularly to check up on me, on my well-being, on my father's well-being, because I had a number of, you know, family issues at the time. So it does, and I was thinking about it, I think it was yesterday, and just thinking about how many messages I had from you. Even when she couldn't reach me, she would leave voice notes saying, you know, how is daddy, how are you, how is your health? I want to say, you know, thank you so much. You've been very supportive. You've got an amazing supportive team as well. You and all the others who really I don't know. Thank you for everything that you've done to make this conference a success. And you know, the real nuggets that even I have received sitting down with, you know, we're learning environment, we keep learning. Nobody is an authority on any information, and the things that I've heard today that not only have I learned from, have galvanized me to action in other areas as well. So I want to thank you for just catalyzing this and making this happen. And I know it's not easy, all the tireless fundraising. If you have promised to pledge to give, please redeem your pledge. And all the curating of the conversations and the questions, thank you so much. And this is for you.
Fantastic. Can we get a picture with the flowers? Hold your flowers. Let's get a nice, let's have evidence that men love flowers. That is important.
It is from the Titans panel, the veterans telling us that leadership is important and we really need to take leadership ourselves. Where there is a vacuum of leadership, we can do something about it. There was a quote by Indidi that said, somebody had said they no longer pray for the serenity to understand what it is that is beyond them, they cannot do, but they pray for wisdom to be able to do that which they cannot accept and should not accept. So there are certain things in our lives that we cannot accept and we should not accept. And I think we can all take leadership by praying for wisdom to be able to be that change in that environment, in that particular area, whether it's socially and how we interact with the people around us, or it is environmentally, or it is even in terms of policies and the economy itself, the financial side of things. I mean, in Africa, we all bear financial burdens that are beyond ourselves. And so we need to be able to look at how we consume. Again, I would say that responsible consumption and also responsible giving. We look forward to year 4 and many years beyond this. This conference keeps getting better and it will keep getting better. Thank you again very much to everyone. Thanks to everyone who has supported, all the technical support crew. We really value you again. Thank you that all the mics worked well. When they should, everything was seamless. Thanks to everyone who's been a part of making this a success. Doom and the team, well done. Thank you.
Say that the anchor, it was my privilege to host you. I was supported today by Joyce Daniels, the Queen of Talk, and it was indeed our pleasure. Thank you.